to City of Marshalltown, Iowa by repealing Chapter 91 Fire Prevention and Protection and adopting a new Chapter 91 Fire Prevention and Protection, which adopts by reference the 2021 International Fire Code with certain amendments. First reading with
Wish to approve this one.
So moved, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Good evening, David Ryerson, Marshalltown Fire Department. So before you tonight, you have an ordinance to amend Chapter 91, and I need to point out it's not all of Chapter 91. It's just sections 91, 001, and 002, which deal specifically with the fire code. So we're currently in the 2015 International Fire Code. So when we adopted that, we chose not to adopt the 2018 code when it came out because there was so little change between the two. It just didn't make sense to do it. But now with 2021, there are some significant changes in it that I believe are in the best interest for us. In the memo that was in your packet, I have a list of the major changes that would be in the fire code. There's things out there now like 3D printing processes. We have a lot of electric vehicles. There's even hydrogen vehicles out there. So there's changes to how automotive repair garages deal with and prepare those vehicles to work on them. There's some revisions to the use of residential sprinkler systems. And there's stuff in here to amend how we do and how we protect openings and voids in fire protective construction. So you've got the whole list of them. I'm going to read them to you, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I suspect there'd be a motion to waive the reading of the whole code for us. Any questions up here, though, or comments by the council? Hearing none. As I understand it, we need to do this in 3 steps, too. We don't get to waive the second or third reading.
Correct.
By code, okay. Any public comments on this one? Seeing nobody rushing to the mic, let's call the roll.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop.
Yes.
Very good. On to discussion items. I guess I get to read these. Discussion of the proposed amendment to the policy for the sale of surplus property.
Yes, Your Honor. So, as you know, staff are working to clean up of the alleys in town without any ownership to get them back on the tax rolls. And we are now coming across alleys that have been vacated and no action was taken by previous councils to convey them to the adjacent property owners. We're also finding portions of alleys that were vacated that are leaving other portions landlocked. So staff is recommending that we do an amendment to the surplus property policy in order to dispose of these alleyways to the adjacent owners at a reasonable price. So the amendment would read that the right-of-way of a remnant from a prior vacation or has been previously vacated but not conveyed, the adjacent owner would be offered the right-of-way at $250 if less than 0.25 acres. If the right-of-way is larger than 0.25 acres and is not adjacent to a prior vacation, the adjacent land value shall be used to determine an average price. A reduction factor up to 50% may be applied if the parcel is required to maintain easements for utilities, is unsuitable for building a structure or other circumstances which reduce the value of the use of the land. So I have a few property owners that have just recently called with these types of situations that we'd like to be able to work with them to offer them at a reasonable price.
Thank you. Time for discussion by council.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I guess main comments that if we're going to do a reduction factor, I'd like it to be a stable reduction factor, not a varying reduction factor. So not up to 50%. Let's just make it a one-size-fits-all if there's the same reasoning or justification that we're going to be adjusting it.
I'm seeing heads nodding in the affirmative. Anybody wish to take the?
Your Honor?
Yes.
The only thing I would pause or have pause on that is if you have a $16,000 alley that nobody wants and the reduction is 50%, you're still paying $8,000 for a piece of land that really doesn't have any value. I'm okay with a set value or a set reduction, but I think it's got to be higher than 50%.
I think that was a typo in the first page of the memo where the example said 16,000. It was actually 1,600. If you look at the table on the next page. So then it would be about 800 with the reduction.
I know there's an alley that's worth more than that
Okay.
based on the surrounding commercial properties. And the alley, even at half the value listed, is not worth that money. So what I'm saying is I don't really know how to do this, because if we set a percentage, we're going to be giving away some. Why can't they all just be that set value of $250? I mean, they're alleys that really have no purpose.
Open
I liked it better when
whatever-
I liked it better when they were $1.
I mean, you have to be able to make a reasonable argument that the city's obtaining value. And with a lot of these orphan pieces, you know, a very low amount like your 250 would probably not be unreasonable given the limited marketability, limited use, and I guess prior historic use. We'd spoken previously on some instances here about equitable estoppel in property. And when you get a situation where you've had these vacated rights of way being used by individuals for a very, very, very long period of time, you know, there's an argument there that title should rightly sit with them. There's also cost reduction in terms of the city with adjacent property owners maintaining these so that the city doesn't have to. And there's also typically a lot of, I guess, historic labor that's gone on to maintaining these by adjacent property owners. So I think what and I haven't seen this exact language, but I think what you probably need to make sure you have covered with the language is that it's separating those instances where you have truly de minimis value, where a very low dollar amount is reasonable under the circumstances, and where you have something like the $16,000 portion that you referenced that being that large probably could be put to some reasonable use and have some reasonable market value. So,
Does anybody have any ideas how many alleys we're talking about here? In terms of whether we do it on a case-by-case basis rather than en masse?
Currently, I'm looking at probably 8 to 10, but there's probably many more out there.
And just for context, if you look at GIS, in pretty much any city, it's not just Marshalltown, you'll find these everywhere. It's the reason that, as your city attorney, we don't let any deeds out of our hands regardless of what side of the transaction the city's on. Because historically, I think these were given out as low dollar pieces of property in the past, and people just didn't see it worth their time to go and record them. So you find them, 60, 70, 80 years later when somebody finally looks, and at that point it's just kind of like a cleanup process to kind of get these little missing teeth out of the way.
Anybody else want to weigh in up here? The public mic is open if anybody wants to weigh in out there on that one.
Mark Eaton, 1007 South 10th Avenue. Isn't the city gaining value even selling it for a low dollar amount because it's going on the tax rolls and we're getting property taxes from that property, which we weren't getting before? And does this affect Lackey Terrace at all? It's not an alley, but it's an abandoned piece of property within our domain, which is not being taxed and being used by the neighboring properties.
Any other public comment?
Your Honor, if I may.
You may.
I would like to see the city at least recover the cost of getting the deeds out. That, it would be a minimal amount in order for these.
Your Honor, if I may add again?
You may.
I'm okay with whatever we come up with for a plan tonight, because I know in a case-by-case scenario, we can always amend that one if there's one that's way out of line. So, what Counselor Isom said, I'm okay with that idea. Setting a percentage so the people coming in the door know what to expect based on the acreage of the alley. Like I said, because if we get one of those anomalies that's way out of line, I think common sense could override it that night. So thank you, Your Honor.
Welcome. Anybody else up here?
Your Honor,
Yes.
one last comment. I guess in that case, to accomplish both, why don't we just change the percentage then? Up to 80%, or up, and put it at 80%, but no less than 250. And catches the outliers from the big dollar perspective and accomplishes the same goal.
The 250 satisfies covering the legal expense of a simple transaction like that too.
Let's move it to 80%, no less than 250, and you knock out the outliers and you put most of them in the same category.
I have that in a motion, please.
So moved.
Oh, sure. You still leave the hard work to her. Is there a second to that one?
I'll second.
Thank you.
One more comment, Your Honor.
You-
If we're putting Alicia in charge of writing this, are we going to have ghosts and ghouls in the resolution again?
I have no clue what he's talking about, but that's generally the case, so. Okay, let's. Yeah. Let's call the roll.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider.
Yes.
Okay, staff has its direction any way you want to write it now, kind of. All right, next discussion item, purchasing policy amendment for ordering of vehicles. You want to tackle that one too? I'm sorry.
To adopt the language as is and changing section 2 of the memo, if the right-of-way is larger than 0.25 acres, that a reduction factor up to be 80%, but no less than $250 if the parcel is required to maintain easements for utilities, unsustainable for building structure, or other circumstances which reduce the value and use of land.
That's just what I thought. Okay, thank you. Now on to the purchasing of, or ordering of vehicles. Mic is open.
David Ryerson, Marshalltown Fire Department. I was nominated to present this to you tonight. So we are asking for an amendment to the city purchasing policy specific to the purchase of vehicles. With the whole COVID and the supply chain issues, it has pushed being able to obtain vehicles for the police department, the fire department, public works. It's created a lot of problem in order to obtain these vehicles. The police department, I believe, has lost out 2 or 3 times where they've had contracts canceled. Public Works has lost out on 6 vehicles because contracts have been canceled. Specifically for the fire department, you have a light rescue vehicle that will be due to be replaced in 2026. You would have to order it now to get it in 2026. So what we're looking for is an amendment to the policy that would allow us to order a vehicle but not pay for it until it's delivered. We would still have to come with a resolution to get council approval to make the purchase. Right now, our policy says that we cannot purchase a vehicle if it's outside of the fiscal year, if it's not budgeted. So that is the correction or amendment that we're asking you to consider tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any council questions?
Your Honor?
Yeah.
So you're just asking to go outside the fiscal year, but you're not spending any money?
Correct. There'd be no down payment. All it's doing is it's a placeholder for us to be able to get vehicles.
Sounds good.
Your Honor. Hey, Dave, realistically, though, every city's going to be looking at things like this. Don't you think that this is going to cause more contracts being canceled? Because the cities that are going to put money up front are going to get the first choice, and cities like us that are just placing a placeholder we're going to be the ones that get shoved back?
I would think that's a possibility, and I think that's a lot of the reason why, at least from the fire truck side, that's why you're seeing that big delay, is because departments have gone ahead and purchased vehicles knowing that there was an extended period of time to wait for delivery.
So what you're asking is, this is a gamble. It costs us nothing.
Correct.
But we could, what if they cancel, if we order one for 2026 and they cancel it in 2025?
That's still a possibility. And they're only manufacturing so many vehicles a year. So once they've allotted all of the vehicles they plan to manufacture, they're done. They just cancel whatever other orders they have sitting out there.
So this will improve your ability to at least order outside the year, but we're still losing a competitive advantage to other cities?
Yeah, it's going to put us in a spot to be able to order vehicles, or at least put us in a place to do it. A lot of us are using state bids or government purchasing contracts to buy these vehicles, so it's not really going to affect us, from a dollar standpoint. I can say for fire apparatus, one of the largest manufacturers says if you put your order in now, knowing there's a 3 years, you don't have to pay for it until you get it delivered, and they will guarantee you your price from the day that you order it. So you're saving on the 10, 15, 20% price increases along the way as well.
All right, are we losing out on a competitive advantage by not prepaying something, down payment type of thing, do you think?
Well, yeah, you would be. But then there's no guarantee if you prepay it that they're going to complete your order either.
If it gets bad enough, you'll probably be nominated to come back to us and ask to be able to prepay for the public works and police and fire. Okay. Any other questions up here or any comments out in the public?
Your Honor, I would give staff direction to come back with this. This is no harm, no foul, but we're gonna have to address this if the automakers can't get themselves out of this bind, so.
And truthfully, you're seeing this in, the vehicles has been the big thing for cancellations, but you're seeing this industry-wide, at least from my perspective. It's taken me almost 2 years to get fire gear. So if it doesn't get any better, we may be back asking, to be able to do this in other areas as well.
I think I heard a similar thing from the police department recently too, in terms of the protective gear. I'll take that as a motion to direct staff to come up with something we can vote on to change the policy. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Hoop,
Yes.
Okay, on to item K, possible closed session. The first resolution under that is Resolution 2023-102, approving voluntary resignation and release of claims. And that puts me at a point to, after having read that, I would call for a motion and a second to go to closed session, and then I will ask for the opinion of our attorney about the legality of doing so. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, what is your opinion on the legality of going into closed session?
I'm aware of the facts and circumstances and am of the opinion that you are legally entitled to go into closed session pursuant to the stated purpose.
Very good. We would now call for a roll call vote.
Hoop,
Yes.
Isom,
Yes.
Kell,
Yes.
Lottiehoff,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Very good. We have our 2/3 required vote, and we are in closed session as soon as we can clear the room. See if I can keep